evening, everybody. I don't know, Treasurer Gillette, you going to join us up here? Today is Wednesday, December 18th. The time is 6:30 p.m., and I am calling this meeting of the Macomb Township Board of Trustees to order, and we will now say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Posey, we call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Trustee Cusimano?
Here.
Trustee Lucido?
Here.
Trustee Papa?
Here.
Trustee Oliver?
Here.
Treasurer Drollet?
Here.
Clerk Posey here. Supervisor Viviano?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, there's a proposed add-on under the clerk's office, item number 29, a request for revocation of vendor's permit, Showtime Novelties located at 15255 Hall Road and 46900 North Avenue.
Motion to approve the agenda with the addition.
Second.
I understand that there was another correction on the consent agenda,
Yes, the correction on the agenda item was
item 5A.
item 5A, but I don't have the original amount, but it was reduced to $70,000,
110.
from 110 to 70,000.
I consent to the addition of the consent agenda thing.
I consent in support.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions on the agenda? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Guzmano, to approve the agenda as corrected. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to approval of the bills. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second. Sorry.
Good.
Trustee Papa? Any questions or discussion on the bill run? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the bills. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes from December 3rd?
Trustee Kuzma will make the motion to approve the minutes.
Support. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, motion by Trustee Kuzmano, supported by Trustee Lucido, to approve the previous meeting's minutes from December 3rd. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. All right, this will take us to our first public comment of the evening. This is for agenda items only. Anyone wishes to make public comment on any of the agenda items may do so now at the microphone on the right-hand side of the room. And I don't see anyone present, so I'm going to move on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
Support. Any questions or discussion on the consent items? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to approve the consent agenda. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we're going to move on to a presentation. Item 9, recognition of the retirement of firefighter Michael Wiedbusch. Chief.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this evening I'd like to recognize and honor part-time firefighter Michael Wiedbusch for his 26 years of service to the Macomb Township Fire Department. Firefighter Wiedbusch started on November 2nd, 1998 as a paid-on-call firefighter. July of this year, he transitioned to the new part-time firefighter position, and on December 6th, he retired. He served the township and the fire department for the past 26 years, missing countless hours of family holidays, and responded to thousands upon thousands of calls throughout his time helping residents at their time of need. And so I'd like to just honor him this evening, to thank him for his service, and to present him with his helmet as a token of our appreciation for all of his years.
Bring him up.
You too.
All right. We're going to move on to item number 10. This is a request for the supervisor to sign a quitclaim deed to transfer part of parcel 0810100002 as depicted in Exhibit A to the Broughton Road Development LLC.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Van Tiffelen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, board members. In 2019, the township entered into a settlement agreement for a lawsuit filed by the owner of the property in the southeast corner of 25 Mile in Broughton. Part of that settlement agreement requires that the township transfer the property that is on the east side of Broughton Road, north of the library, with the property with the hill on it when you're driving out of here. And that was done in exchange for some amenities that the developer is now required to put in. We've now gotten to a point with the development where the engineering plans are through the permitting process and they're ready to start the construction process. So we need to get this property transferred so we can complete the engineering so that they can start construction. Some of the improvements that the township is getting in exchange for that property are a entrance feature at 25 Mile in Broughton, some townhouse style condominiums along that section of Broughton Road, as well as some on-street parking. There's a pedestrian pathway that's going to continue the pathway that we just built around the pond onto their property to a piece of property that the township owns that fronts on Foss Road, along with a parking lot that the public will be able to use in order to park to use that trail system. There's also, I think, a little pocket park that's in their development they're required to install for the public to use. So with that, we've worked with the township attorney and our engineering firm to draft up the appropriate documents to transfer the property. We're just asking for the board's permission to have the supervisor sign the document. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Van Tiffelen. Any questions or discussion?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Is there a contingency built in case they don't perform what, their side of the deal to build all that stuff that we're saying? Like, does it just revert back, or how does that work?
I mean, it's a consent to judgment, so it has to.
It's a legal agreement. We would have, we'd get the attorneys involved and have to go to court to get them to comply.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Are there any new details, or is everything in the consent judgment?
There have been some modifications, amendments to the settlement agreement over the years. Most of those are minor in nature. One of the things is we wanted the entrance feature, instead of being on the southeast corner, to be on actually the corner that the township owns in the southwest corner. So they're minor things like that, but the major things that would affect the transfer of this property have not changed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Usmano. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the supervisor to sign the quitclaim deed to transfer part of parcel. I'm sorry.
For the record, Trustee Papa made the motion.
I'm sorry. I read it backwards. Sorry. So motion by Trustee Papa, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to have the supervisor sign a quitclaim deed to transfer part of parcel 0810100002 to Broughton Development LLCs. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. All right, this will take us to item number 11. This is a request to award the construction of the MA01 replacement project to Paymar Enterprises, the amount of $4,215,612. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Johnson.
All right. Good evening, board. So with this project, engineering and DPW went out for proposals on MA01 replacement back in October. Just so you guys are, just to recap, the township uses the request for proposal or RFP process, which allows the township to go beyond the cost of the project and really get an understanding of the contractor's experience and qualifications to complete the project, with the ability to interview candidates on the project if need be. The RFP opening was on November 26th, with 2 bids being received, one from Paymar and one from DiAgostini, or LDS for short. The RFP review team consisted of 7 individuals, Jim Van Tiffelen, Crystal Kozak, Ed Koenig, Mike Rickert, Kevin Ostrowski, Maria Sedke, and myself. Within that RFP review, it consists of 4 scoring categories. There's professional qualifications that allow the contractor to tell them how they can be able to do the work. There's past experience with the township, so the township experience with that contractor in the past. There's the proposed work plan, the schedule, and the cost proposal. Reviews are conducted independently, so each person on the review team independently scores these before anybody talks to each other, without conversation between any members at any time. The interviews were then, so we all scored these proposals, and then conducted interviews on December 6th for both companies that gave us proposals. That we all then looked at our scores and updated them based on the interviews we had with each company. And just for clarification too, I worked at my prior job in Chesterfield. We used a similar process. I've been doing this for over 10 years, this RFP process, and I've also been a part of it with Great Lakes Water Authority. They do the same process, and I've been involved as a person who scores their RFPs as well on numerous occasions over the last 10 years. One of the biggest components of this project is the timeline. February 1st, 2025 is a key date because we need to make sure this connection, which is our main connection to Great Lakes Water Authority. We have 3 connections. This is our primary connection. It needs to be connected by February 1st to make sure that we have adequate pressure to the township residents for the springtime when we start irrigating in like early April. So we really can't deviate from this timeline because it potentially could negatively affect residents, mainly residents north of 24 Mile Road. That does not mean the project will be complete by that date, but that'll be making sure the water is in service. The goal to be complete is July 1 of 2025. So with that, and with the recommendation of PAMAR, going through each category, so with the professional qualifications and past experience, they did have as a part of their package 4 individuals with over 20 plus years of experience. With their vast experience, their most recent project they worked on was the Shelby Township storage tank. And speaking with Shelby Township, they were very pleased with the work that was performed. The project went on as expected, and it was within budget. They've also dealt with GLWA on numerous occasions and are very familiar. Even though GLWA does approve plans, we get them to review them. Sometimes they do tend to make changes as they do. So they're very familiar with how they operate and that they can work with GLWA in making those things happen. Keep in mind, these are larger items, so sometimes there are a little bit longer lead times on some items. So making sure that these things are ordered in a timely fashion is critical. And that communication is important to make sure early on to make sure that the project stays on task. With the proposed work plan, PAMAR's work plan went into very great detail on the project, from the phasing and sequencing of the project to ample time given to shut down and reinstate the connection with GLWA. With the schedule, they brought up the schedule fits within a timeline that we're expecting, and as a part of this schedule, I know when you guys are experienced, we just did an extension of time with the sewer project of 181 days on the sewer project. With this project, when I called PAMAR with that issue, Ron Iacovetti, we addressed it immediately, and the project got back on track as soon as we had an issue. Given that there are some issues with DTE and consumers that are out of our control, there's some things that we couldn't control that have caused a delay. But since that time it's been addressed, it stayed on task. Now, given it's an extension, that was a question we asked in the interview. They fully expected that they can stay on task with this project. The comfortability I have with that is the sewer doesn't negate that people will not have sewer service with the extension of time. People can still use the sewer, they can still function. If we have an extension of time with this project, there's a possibility people could have little to no water if this goes beyond the project guide goals. So I feel like there's a little bit of a difference there in terms of extension of time versus what this one's going to be. This one's a little more serious in nature, especially from an Eagle standpoint. And then from a cost proposal, which is the final section, this was the higher of two proposals by $217,000. The review team does not score the cost. The cost is automatic, so the lowest score gets the highest cost and such. That's how that works. So that was not something we scored as a part of this proposal. Overall, Paymar was thorough and detailed in their knowledge and confidence in the project, as shown and explained in their interview, which is why we're recommending them for the project. The budget cost for this was $2.6 million, so it's a little higher than the budget, but as a part of our capital plan, which we do every October, November, we are adjusting projects to make sure we fit in the cost like we do every year. We make sure we adjust projects around to cover, to fit in the goals that we have for all of our projects as a whole for the township. The confirmation of process memo is attached, and myself and or Jim are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any questions or discussion from the board?
This one,
Yep.
so clarification, your start date would be preferred. What is your start date on this?
The start date of the project will be immediately following, like tomorrow we'll get the paperwork going
That's
immediately. It'll be immediate.
okay.
But the main date we're in mind is making sure February 1st, 2025 is when we are reconnected to Great Lakes Water Authority and we are functioning with that, the MAO1, the PRV station.
Will there ever be a gap where there's no water in that system? Or
Yes,
you're always
there'll
backfeeding?
be, both contracts did have a section of time to where it will be turned off. Let's just say like November to January, there'll be a window in there. Each one had a different one, but there'll be a window to where they'll be shut down. And we can function without it during the winter months. It won't be an issue. It's just when it comes to irrigation is when we're going to have substantial challenges if we get into that season.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ask. Yep, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yep.
Mr. Johnson, thank you for the presentation. Did you state that the budget for the project was 2.6 we anticipated, or was it 3.6?
I looked in the last year's 5-year plan said 2.6.
Okay. Is there a reason why we're that far off our estimation of what the cost might come in at? Or is there?
We just talking with Fishbeck and engineering, it's just costs are increasing, and it's just it was an unknown at that time, so unexpected.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question that just popped into my head. Is it anticipated that the percentage increase will go across the board on all the projects? I mean, as Treasurer Drollet just said, that's a significant increase from 2.6 to 4.2 million. Is there going to have to be a reevaluation of the 5-year plan and also?
Yeah. We're working with Fishbeck and engineering. We're all working together to reevaluate our costs like we do every year to make sure that we're fitting our costs within the anticipated budget so as not to have this extreme of a variation in projects.
Kevin, how old was that projected number when it was inserted into the budget?
1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I think we need to
Yeah.
keep in mind that that number was before we started doing any design or permitting work. So
Yeah.
it was purely a guess on Fishbeck's part as to what we were going to need at that corner. And I don't even know that we knew it was going to be in that corner at the time. So that's essentially where I think where a lot of the difference is not knowing.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Guzmano. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yep.
After reviewing the scoring sheet, the largest margin in the scoring fell in the category of professional qualifications and past experience. You touched on it, Kevin, but Mr. Van Tifflin, since you were on the panel as well, Can you explain how you scored that category
Sure.
in further detail, since the
Yep.
discrepancy was the largest in that category?
Yeah, there's, in our mind, in my mind, I can really only speak for myself, but in my mind, there are two aspects of it. It's the professional qualification of the firm to do the work. We're familiar with both firms. Both firms are qualified to do the work. But past experience is way I interpret it is it's our experience with that contractor. Any contractor you have issues with, things come up during construction and you work them out. I scored the two as I felt my experience has been with them on those past projects. And obviously it reflects that there have been some issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
I just got a quick
Yes.
question to maybe whoever could answer this. Is the scoring system new, or have we used it, or is this the first time, or?
No, we've been using this for several years now. I don't know if Janet can answer that question. Yeah, five years.
Okay.
So we do it on most of our infrastructure projects now. Whether it's water and sewer, our sidewalk programs are all done through the RFP program and scored very, very similarly. Sometimes you make adjustments depending on, there might be a more important aspect, but it's scored, similar to how we handle professional services and whatnot. Because it's more than, you want to make sure that you've got the right contractor doing the right work.
So before we started this program, this graded program for me, would you be happier now that you're doing it?
Yes.
Or like the other way we did it?
Yeah, I mean, what you don't want is to be necessarily saddled with the low bidder every time, because that might not work out to the advantage of the township. So what this does is gives us an opportunity to evaluate the contractor's capability, their ability to work with us, their ability to handle the schedule that is set forth in the contract, as well as the price. So they all have a certain percentage as we score them, and they're all added up.
And does this new project or scoring system, does it have better safeguards for Macomb Township?
I believe it does. I think we've been successful with this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Anyone else?
Just like to make a comment if I could. In looking at the two bids, again, I don't know anything about this type of work. From where I stand, I know insurance, so I don't know this type of work. But I do know also that price isn't always everything. We've done other bids in the past where we did not go with the lowest bidder, and I want people to understand that when we're spending 5% more on something, I have to take into account the selection committee, that I don't know everybody on the selection committee, but I know the majority of them, and I have the utmost confidence and respect in their decisions. So I base my decision based on what I get from what I feel is a qualified team that's giving me this recommendation. So I don't want to think the public to think that we spend their money unwisely. We make calculated decisions based on the experts that know what they're talking about. So I just want to make that comment.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Can I add to that? Just, I'd like to concur with Mr. Lucido, and, as the new trustee, I rely even more on our department heads and that for their due diligence in that, so I can respect that as well. I look at the higher cost being sort of a risk mitigation cost there, that they came in with a much better schedule, and so I think we're somewhat safer to go that route, and that is, for me, it justifies the cost. So
Thank you, Trustee Papa. The only comment I'm going to make is I think both bidders are both well-known. They've been around a long time. They're both excellent in their field. I think the township would have been well-served with either contractor doing this work. I think this decision was made on a very slim margin, but I trust the selection committee's
expertise and professionalism to make that narrow decision. So that's all I have to say on it.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, the worst case scenario is not always dollars. Our highest priority is making sure that our residents have the water service that they need to run their lives. So that's a factor that we put into that bid process, from my understanding of the committee, that weighs heavily when there's a project with high stakes. So, you know, I appreciate the committee being thorough in evaluating every aspect of the bid, and I recognize the fact that I don't know anything about underground contracting. I'm glad we have people here that do, and you know, do their best to represent the township in these instances. So thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Anyone else? If there's no other comments or questions, we have a motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Clerk Posey, to award the construction of the MAO1 replacement project to Paymar Enterprises in the amount of $4,215,612. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Moving on to item 12, is a request to hire for the position of engineer.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. I'm looking to extend an offer of employment to Allison Deal for our engineer position. We received over 30 applications. Myself, Jim Van Tifflin, and Crystal Kozak interviewed several candidates, and we all determined Allison would be a great addition to the engineering team. With Allison's strong background in civil and environmental engineering, combined with her exceptional communication skills, we are confident that she will be a valuable asset to the township. This is a budget position, and we're shooting for a starting date of January 13th. Thank you for consideration, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. Any questions or discussion?
Just like to make a comment, if I may, Mr. Chair, since I'm in the commenting mood tonight, apparently.
If you must.
I must. So this was a position that was of high importance to the township, and I know that our engineering department worked very hard to scour, you know, for candidates that meet the criteria they're looking for, and there was challenges in trying to find that right person. So when they came to us with excitement on their faces that they believed they had found the right person, you know, I know that was something that was, I know that was great news for the community. So I'm so happy to have Ms. Deal joining us at the township.
Yes, Allison is over there. She did join us today, so just to let you know.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Litz, supported by Clerk Posey, to hire Allison Deal to the position of engineer. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Moving on to our next item is a request to hire the position of utility worker.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you again. So another difficult position to hire. We're looking to extend an offer of employment to William Schroeder for our utility worker position with our DPW department. We received over 16 applications. Myself and Kevin Johnson's DPW staff interviewed several candidates, and we all determined William would be a great addition to the DPW team. William gained his experience working for Paymar Construction for the last couple of years. This is a budgeted position, and we are looking for a starting date of January 6, 2025. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Trustee Papa, to hire Mr. William Schroeder to the position of utility worker. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. And next item, item 14, is a request to approve the year-end recognition.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you. So as we close another successful but challenging year, I'm seeking approval for a year-end employee appreciation bonus to recognize our team's dedication and hard work. Their resilience and commitment have driven significant achievements in both capital and organizational improvements, all while maintaining the financial discipline required by our Board of Trustees. Despite high inflation, the township remains under budget in operational costs. but still has seen significant progress in capital and organizational improvements. This demonstrates our team's efficiency and productivity. Even amidst challenges, they have successfully managed projects on our roadways, our parks, our water and sewer systems, and much more. Recognizing our employees with an appreciation bonus fosters morale, engagement, and loyalty, which directly supports the township's continued success. I'm recommending a bonus of $750 for full-time employees who are employed as of July 1, 2024, and $250 for part-time employees averaging 16-plus hours a week over the past 6 months. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeBacca. Before I ask for any questions, I'm going to ask for Treasurer Gillette to amend his motion to reflect the action requested, which is to approve a recognition bonus of $750 per full-time employee employed with the township as of July 21st, 2024, and $250 per part-time employee who has averaged 16 hours per week or more over the last 6 months.
I will agree to that amendment.
Trustee Lucido, will you agree to the second?
Yes.
Now, on that, is there any questions or discussion?
I have a comment.
Yes, of course you do.
This past calendar year, I know we have a budget year that doesn't align with the calendar year, but this past calendar year, if you look at the audit and you look at our budgeting, we have spent more this year on road projects, on sidewalk projects, on parks and recreation. We've invested more than in any year in the history of the township as far as adding new road projects, completing more sidewalk projects, completing more parks and rec projects. Despite that record investment in public benefit, our actual general government budget, not the projects themselves, but cost to run this township from a personnel perspective and heating and lighting and that sort of thing, is not only down from what we had budgeted, it's 3% less than it was last year. We're actually cost us less this year to run the general government operations than it cost last year, despite inflation. And that the ability to provide more and cost less is a testament to the great work of the people of this township, the employees of this township, and the dedication that they have to running a lean, efficient government and making sure we maximize the benefits that we have to the residents of this township, and it's a team that does that. So I'm very proud to support this particular agenda item.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Any other questions or discussion?
Quick question, is that added to their actual paycheck, or is there a separate payout for that?
It'll be added to the second paycheck in January.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, same question that I had last year at this time. Does the collective bargaining agreement cover year-end recognition bonuses?
No, it does not.
Is there a reason why it's not anticipated in the negotiations with the collective bargaining units?
I mean, since I've been here, I've negotiated 4, and it's never been brought up.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Guzmano. Any other questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido to, I gotta get back to the motion. Approve the recognition bonus of $750 per full-time employee employed with the township as of July 21st, 2024, and $250 per part-time employee who has averaged 16 hours per week over the last 6 months. Members, please vote. More or 6 months or more. Motion passes 6-1 with Trustee Guzmano voting no. Moving on to item 15. This is a request to approve revised landscape plan to the PUD general design plan at Hartford PUD. Parcel numbers 0814-151002. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. The Hartford is a development on the southeast corner of 24 and Card Road. It's been there for a while. The final phases are just finishing up. However, the final phase, they have added a berm which provides some screening from a neighboring community and a roadway. That was not part of the original landscape plan. It's a very minor change, but it does in fact require an amendment to their PUD general design plan, which is why we're here this evening. Staff has reviewed this and is in support, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this.
Thank you, Mr. Box. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by trustee Oliver, supported by clerk Posey, to approve the revised landscape plan to the PUD general design plan for the Hartford PUD. Parcel numbers 0814-151-002. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is a request to award professional planning and zoning consulting services. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Trustee Kuzma supports the motion.
Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. Much like we just had the discussion with Mr. Johnson about bidding things out, we bid out our professional planning services. For the past 5 years, we have used Carlisle Wortman. Their original contract was actually expired 2 years ago, and for the past 2 years, we've extended it 1 year each time. So we decided to put it out for bid this year. We placed it on Mitten on October 7th. We did receive 2 proposals. The review committee came back with unanimous support for Carlisle Wortman moving forward. It is slightly different than their previous work with us in that we've had Mr. Skirto on site for 3 days a week the past 5 years. That will come to an end at the end of this calendar year. What we bid out was for just ongoing services as needed. So we may have somebody come in on site from time to time, but there will not be someone here on a regular basis. But we do still have the opportunity to work with their full staff for ordinance writing and other special projects. And so with that, we would be happy to reappoint them or reapprove them as our professional planning consultant services consultant. And the purchasing department's confirmation of process memo is attached in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Box. And can you tell us how this new contract differs financially from the previous contract?
Yes, so they have a retainer that's significantly smaller. It was upwards of $10,000 a month previously. Again, that included Dave being here 3 days a week, as well as other services that they provide to us. This new retainer is, as I believe, $1,000 a month, and so again, that they won't be here every week. Maybe once a month we might see somebody on site, but we'll be working with them remotely, much like we do with a lot of our consultants.
Did you say the retainer is 1,000 a month? I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Kuzmano, to award the contract for professional planning and zoning consulting services to Carlisle Wortman. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Let's take us to item 17, is a request to approve an emergency repair to engine 1 to Cummins Sales and Service in the amount of $12,665.92. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Chief.
Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, I'm requesting your approval for an emergency repair that's needed on engine 1. The fire engine is currently located at Cummins Sales and Service in Mount Clemens. The diesel engine is a Cummins engine, and they're the only Cummins dealer in our area. The engine is in need of a radiator and power steering pump as outlined in the attached estimate. The total cost for the repair is $12,655.92. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the emergency repair to engine 1 to Cummins Sales and Service in the amount of $12,665.92. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 18, this is a request to extend a contract with LaserCom for the printing and mailing of the 2025 tax bills. Is there a motion to approve?
Trustee Kuzma makes the motion to approve.
Support.
Treasurer Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The township has had a contract with LaserCom for the printing and mailing of 2025 tax bills for the last 5 years, I believe, and there's built-in extension options in that contract The extensions have to be agreed to by both the township and the contractor. The contractor has agreed to extend the contract at the same price as he's charged in the past with no increase. So we believe that is a good value for the township considering the price of inflation over the last several years.
Thank you, Treasurer Drollet. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, motion by Trustee Kuzma, supported by Treasurer Drollet, to extend our contract with LaserCom for the printing and mailing of the 2025 tax bills. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is a request to award the Township Hall Basement Build-Out Phase 2 to Orland's Construction in the amount of $200,270 and to Office Express for $49,516.67. Is there a motion to approve those two contracts?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Stacy.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. Back on November 20th, we received 5 bids for the lower level build-out Phase 2 for the finance offices as well as the purchasing. This would, currently we have 5 employees in both of those departments. This would accommodate up to 7. On November 20th, 5 bids were received. The lowest 2 bidders were interviewed by Frank Viviano, Chris Nosek, Alyssa Dempsey from AEW, and myself. We are recommending Orland's Construction in the amount of $200,279. This would also include a partition wall for the IT office. And then the furniture was bid out through Omnia Partners. I'm sorry, I wrote that down wrong. Omnia Partners in the amount of $49,516.67. With that, I'm looking to award both of those contracts so we can get moving on that project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Trustee Papa, to award the basement build phase out, let me start over. Motion to award the Township Hall Basement Build Out Phase 2 to Orland's Construction in the amount of $200,279 and to Office Express in the amount of $49,516.67. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Stacy. All right, the next handful of items, at this time every year, we reappoint or appoint new members to our various boards and commissions.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to consolidate items 20 and 21 and move to approve the Historical Commission reappointments of James Conlon and David Piper.
Support.
Is there any question or discussion? I guess this will hold true for all of the commissions and appointments since they're all coming from my office. We reached out to each one of these people on this list, whether it's for historical commission like these or the planning and zoning and ZBA. They have all done an excellent job in their roles, and most of them have sought for reappointments. And there's only going to be one of all this, one that's a new appointee, and I will get to mention that when I get to it. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to reappoint Mr. James Conlon and Mr. Dave Piper to the Historical Commission. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I request that we approve the Planning Commission reappointment of an individual named Charlie Oliver.
So for clarification, this is the Board of Trustees liaison to the Planning Commission.
Support.
Are there any questions or discussion on Mr.
Do I vote on it or no?
You probably could, but why don't you,
stay out.
you can abstain.
I'll stay out.
We'll let you stay out.
I'll stay out.
I don't know what's going to happen if it's 3-3, though.
Yeah, I know. I'll take it.
Does anyone want to argue against Charlie being reappointed to the? Okay. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa, to reappoint Charlie Oliver as the Board of Trustees liaison to the Planning Commission. Members, please vote. Motion passes 6-0 with trustee Oliver abstaining.
Mr. Chairman, I request to consolidate items 23 and 24 and approve the Planning Commission reappointments of Kathy Smith and Richard Marley.
Support.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Dot, supported by Clerk Posey, to reappoint Kathy Smith and Richard Marley to the Planning Commission. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to move to consolidate items 25, 26, and 27 and approve the,
You can't do 27 with 25 and 26. That has to be separate.
don't tell me what I can and can't. Oh, all right. I will move to reappoint, consolidate items 25 and 26 to approve the reappointments for the Zoning Board of Appeals of Paul Mazzara and Robert DeBoon. DeBurn.
Support.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Dot, supported by Clerk Posey, to reappoint Mr. Paul Mazzara and Mr. Robert DeBrun to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I request to approve the Zoning Board of Appeals reappointment of Melissa Fostich, alt, as the alternative member to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you.
Support.
Any questions or discussion? Motion by Treasurer Dot, supported by Trustee Lucido, to approve the reappointment of Melissa Fostich to the Zoning Board of Appeals as the alternate. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And finally, now this is a new appointment because this position was vacated by Trustee Papa when he joined the Board of Trustees. Is there a motion to approve the Ethics Committee appointment of Terry Cole?
So moved.
Support.
I'm sorry, who did the motion?
Supported that.
Trustee
Oh.
Papa.
You motioned it?
I motioned.
You supported it?
Yeah.
Correct.
I sound like the same person for a second.
This could be a problem.
Any questions or discussion? This is a new appointment, so Terry Cole was there when we first formed the committee. She was serving as my deputy supervisor at the time, as township president. Is familiar with how to run a meeting, and expressed interest in serving on this board, and I welcomed her participation. Anything else?
I'd just like to concur as well. She was extremely helpful as a liaison when Tony Delvillano, Tom Champion, and I first joined the committee. So I strongly support her joining the Ethics Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papa. There's no more comment. Motion by Trustee Papa, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to appoint Terry Cole to the Ethics Committee. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And finally, our add-on. There is a request for revocation of the vendor's permit for Showtime Novelties located at 15255 Hall Road and 46900 North Avenue. Is there a motion to approve that revocation?
So moved.
Support.
Clerk Posey, are you going to add some context to this request?
Yes, Showtime Novelties received a vendor's permit from the clerk's office for the address of 15255 Hall Road on November 15th and 46900 North Avenue on December 13th. Due to repeatedly failing to comply with the township's ordinances and the approvals given based on their application, the staff is recommending a revocation of these prior approvals. The clerk's office involvement is making sure that the application paperwork is completed in its entirety. We do the background check, request the fingerprints, all the information that needs to be included in the packet. It is then sent out to departments for review based on the information that is inserted with the application. If I may, I'd like to refer to Vince from the fire department and Jerry from code enforcement to give you some further background information as to the issues that we were having with these two vendors, or with this one
Yes.
vendor
So if you both
at
would
these locations.
come up to the mic.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and board members. As the Fire Prevention Division, we follow the IFC, International Fire Code of 2015, and all of my responses to the clerk's department and/or any other department for our approval or denials has a disclaimer on there that the petitioner shall follow the IFC 2015. For the tent structures or a temporary membrane structure, they have to have a flame retardant certificate for any canopy or sidewalls. And that is right from day one when they submit their application. We want that clear. And the tent that they had purchased says right in their application, it is not flame resistant, keep away from flame. So it was initially denied. They said they would keep the canopy off of the tent. And we approved it with the stipulation that they purchase a new canopy cover that meets the qualifications. Various times throughout the following weeks, we drive by, there are tops on there that have not been approved by us. Each time they want us to approve it, we have to do a field inspection, come out and make sure it complies with the requirements. And we were never reached out to come and approve what they purchased. The first week was the Monday before Thanksgiving. They said it would be here on Friday. Haven't seen that yet. Last weekend, we approved the second one at North Avenue and 21. Stopped by there on Saturday afternoon. There was no top, no sides. Everything was good. They had their permit to operate. The next day, I get a text with photographs of a top on there and sides on there. So again, they did not reach out to us to do a field inspection to make sure they were compliant with the IFC. So repeated violations with the request to have a field inspection. I'm not comfortable with the membranes that they're using at this time.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Jerry?
Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, as Vince outlined, there's a sequence of events that needs to take place. There's a couple steps that were missed at both locations, the Hayes Road one and the North Avenue one. There's permits, submittals, inspections, and approvals prior to the business or the vendor being open for business. The building department still has 2 open permits, and they've been up and running for a while now at both locations. So we do, just for on record, there is a couple open permits, electrical and building. Building kind of stems off of the fire departments. Once they give that approval, building would follow, but the electrical is still outstanding.
Thank you, Jerry. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, just because we do provide notice to the respondents, I would open the floor up to them if they have any response to those issues, if they so wish to address them.
Okay, based on attorneys, I think the gentlemen are here. If you'd like to approach the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Richard. We don't have the tops in yet. It was raining that day. We put temporary top that was flame retardant and didn't think nothing of it. It was like a temporary thing. Once the rain went away, we took it down. We're still in the process of waiting for the flame retardant that are certified. And if there's something else that we're not in compliance, so we don't mind being in compliance to make things right to the requirements that are supposed to be set.
We do have a top coming in. It's supposed to be in at 9:15 at the airport tonight.
Okay.
We'll pick it up. We had a custom one made, and it's going to have the certificate on it.
Okay. Yep.
How does that address the sides that you added?
I'm sorry?
That addresses the top. You're mentioning the top of the tent, but you put up sides also that were not compliant nor part of the application.
Right. We won't be putting nothing on nothing until those tops come in. And if it's raining, we'll just shut down until those tops come in, or stone, or whatever that looks like on that day.
I appreciate that honesty now. However, you've caused the township a significant amount of time. As you've heard, every time they get a call with you not being compliant with the application, it requires our fire department to have to go do an inspection and or to go out there and address the complaint. From my understanding, each time they've addressed one of the complaints, you've been compliant, but the next day, you're going back to what you were told not to do. That has been reported to us on several occasions at both locations, just so we're clear.
The tarp that was on the top of it was fire retardant, though. It was. It had a certificate and everything.
But that's not what was part of the application, and it's not what was approved by the fire department. So I just want to be clear that we have felt that we have done, made several attempts to try and work with you as well, and so that your business could be successful. However, we don't feel that it was reciprocated, and nor did you follow the process to ensure your safety in these tents, nor our residents that could be shopping in those tents. Okay?
I understand.
That's why we're requesting what we're doing.
Right, and it was a process, and I'm new at this, so my apologies, and whatever your all's decision is, respect it.
Most importantly, we want everyone to be safe.
Yeah, we just want to help support the Lions. It's going to be a historical moment, for everybody. So if we could continue on and stay in compliance, that would be great. And if your decision is not, I understand.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chair, I've got a question. If indeed the equipment or the top is allegedly arriving shortly, would it be possible to approve this rescission of the license conditional upon that not meeting the requirements of the township code by a date in the very near future? In other words, basically give the gentleman a little bit more time to comply, and if they're not in compliance at that point, it's rescinded. Would that be a feasible motion?
May I speak?
I was going to ask Tim. Go ahead.
Are you asking me that?
No.
I was going to ask you that, but Christie, the clerk would like to weigh in first.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
I understand where you're coming from, and that has been the attempt all along. I just want you to take into consideration the amount of time that has been spent on these two locations to date, and there's no assurance that they're going to comply going forward, as from their past practice, they haven't. So even though we're talking about the top of the tent, then appeared sides that were non-compliant. So there's been issues ongoing, and there's no assurance that once we rectify the one problem, another one won't arise, which is going to require 3 departments have to be involved: myself, planning, fire, and code enforcement.
Yeah,
I just want you to keep that in mind.
I appreciate that. I understand that. It's just awkward to have a bunch of departments overseeing the process of setting up a tent and selling Lions hats. It just seems to come off. It can be intimidating to people who are not doing that in a professional, permanent manner. It might be awkward. I wonder, I guess to the attorney at this point, could we rescind a license if compliance is not met by a date we set certain? Would that be a legal motion or?
So you have the choice. You can say the operations cannot or must cease and desist until you meet and abide by all the code requirements. You could do that, meaning they can't open up until they have the facilities in compliance with the code. I think the problem we have here is it's a kind of bait and switch type of scenario where they're saying, we'll do A and B and C, and you've told us to do A, B, and C, but we're really not going to. And that's been the issue with these particular licensees is even though they're told to do A, B, and C repeatedly and told to stop doing A, B, and C or stop doing what they're doing, they've repeatedly violated the ordinances by refusing to do so. So that's the frustration that we're having from the township perspective. Having a vendor's permit, that's a privilege. That's not a right. And if you can't follow the rules, then you shouldn't be awarded one.
Okay, that wasn't my question, Counselor.
No, I told you, you can do what you were talking about.
Your thoughts on it. My question is...
You can do you can do legally what you're doing. You can say...
But that's not exactly what I was asking you. I didn't want to say that. I wanted to potentially have a motion or arrangements that we do rescind their license on the date of, what is today, the 18th? On the date of the 20th or the 22nd, if they're not determined to be in compliance by the fire department and the building department on that date. So the license would be rescinded as of
today.
No, the license would not be rescinded as of today.
So you're going to allow them to operate?
That's correct. They would have to be in compliance by a certain date, a few days from now, so to speak.
That's up to the board. It's not illegal to do so.
May I say something, please?
Sure.
Now that I've got the big picture of how this works and operates, like I said, I'm new, this is my first time doing it. I can only speak about my location, I can't speak about his location. But now that I understand the full picture and my name's on the paperwork, got the ID and all that stuff, so it is solely my responsibility. There was a other driving force in the beginning of this, but now that my name's on it, I assure you that everything will be up to code and compliance and all the requirements if I'm permitted to continue on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned something in the explanation before. Do we have an authority to say you have to cease operations until this is done, but as soon as it is done, you can resume operations? So basically, we're not revoking the permit, but just saying it's suspended until this is done. And then if it's never done, you can't open up. And if we see you open up, then we're going to revoke it.
I think you have that authority.
Okay.
So it appears we've got 4 options. Revoke immediately, don't revoke and just continue things as is.
So,
Allow them to continue until they're able to give them a date certain to be in compliance, or allow them not to continue, but to continue once they're in compliance.
Well, this way we don't have a
so just let me understand. I guess this question is for Jerry and Vince. Besides the sides and top, which have to be compliant with the fire code, it's the electrical permit has not been finalized?
That's correct. There's a generator must be installed, running and grounded. This is from the electrical inspector. And then with that being said, tent frame must be grounded to the same grounding electrode as the generator.
And that's not the case, I'm sorry?
Does the tent need to be grounded if there's no electric? Only if there's electric.
Only if there's electric with the generator running, right.
So,
And then the other open is the final building, which stems off of the fire department.
I'm a little unclear on the generator. Is there a generator on the site?
Currently, there is not, but it was in the plans that you would
It's in
have.
the plans, if we stay open late, it's in the plan.
They've been out there.
We put a ground rod in the ground, kind of hook it to the generator.
But there's no generator currently.
so here's a practical challenge that we are on December 18th, and as of December 23rd, in 5 days, township will be off for a break and all of our inspectors will not be here. So even if we were to consider it a motion, and I would have to ask, I don't know if our electrical inspector is here on Monday. Is one or you or Joe here on Monday, Vince?
Negative.
Neither one of you. So unless this can be done by Friday, just 2 days from now, we're going to have to suspend the license or revoke it. Because as a practical matter, none of these inspections are going to take place.
May I ask another question?
Yes.
How long were you planning on being open for? I mean, is this a permanent thing or till the end of the season?
Till after we win the Super Bowl.
I appreciate that. I mean, I would be in favor of a motion to suspend the license rather than revoke it and give them an opportunity to not remain open, but to be able to remedy the situation and reopen back up rather than have to go through a permit process again, seeing as how there may only be 8 weeks left in the season.
We can do that. The reality is that means you will not be able to open up until January because we won't be here to finalize any of your.
Unless you can do by Friday, potentially.
Unless you can do it by Friday, which I find it hard to believe, but.
I don't know what's involved. If they don't have a generator and they just have to put a top that's arriving up on the tent, how hard can that be?
That's supposedly at the airport at 9:15.
Right.
Today?
Tomorrow. Or today? Okay.
Yes.
I'm just picking up all the
The tent
pieces.
side, it's I guess it's the electrical and building inspections, but it's possible. Anything's possible.
I got another
Yes.
question. I drove by both sites, and in my experience, both sites are on an extremely busy road. And that's a very busy intersection. And when I look to the east, I don't see through traffic coming to the west on, I'm going to say, 21 Mile Road. Okay? My question is, where does the road commission come in on that? Or is there any rules on that?
Are they in the right of way?
I don't know if they're in the right of way.
So the road commission wouldn't have any, they don't, the road commission, Jim could answer this, they don't really regulate sight lines,
No, just in their right of way.
just within the right of way.
Yeah,
So
and I
as
think
long
this
as they're
is
not in the right of way, there's
I think
no.
this is in the parking lot.
So I guess this is a question to Vince or Jerry. Do we check and make sure they're not in the right of way, these tents? Right? And they're not? Okay.
Is there a vision obstruction when you're northbound looking east? I feel if the county easement is
Okay.
that's an issue.
All right.
Yes.
With concerns to the generator, if, with the electrical permit, you're indicating currently neither location has a generator running, correct? Neither one. So this weekend is supposed to drop very significantly in degrees. Do you plan to put a generator out there to heat it?
We don't use heaters with the generator.
Oh, what do you use in the generator?
Just lights.
We don't
Just
even have
lights.
heaters.
So how are the lights on Hall Road if you're not using a generator?
There's a plug-in by the air compressor.
So
From
from
the-
my understanding, that's considered electrical. Am I right, Jerry?
They're running a power cord off of an existing outlet.
Yes.
There's a plug-in that's on the air pump out there. There, and that's what-
I can't picture where that air pump is. It's not near the marquee.
It's
It's north of the tent.
It's a coin-operated air
Oh, you
pump.
gotta talk in the microphone.
There's, people can't hear the information.
So what he's saying is that there's a coin-operated air pump, there's a built-in outlet attached to that air pump,
Correct.
and he's running an extension cord or,
Yes.
I'm not the electrical inspector, and I don't know that we have any of our electrical, Jerry's our code enforcement, he's not electrical, so whether that's compliant with the electrical inspector or not, we would have to ask him, but I think you probably are right that it's probably not, but I'm not sure.
I mean, from my understanding in the discussions we've had, that's one of the other issues, is that there's lights that are being plugged into a pole, and it's not been inspected, or and they have not submitted the electrical permit to have that inspected. So, I mean, it just boils down to a safety issue, and it's your safety and people that are shopping there. I mean, how the
It's a
board
flippin'
wants to
tent.
choose to do it. I mean, we have to do our job too, to protect both parties. That's why there's an ordinance, so it's up to the
So
board.
if
how
I
they
may,
want-
Mr. Chair, I recognize everybody who's involved in this dispute is doing their best to do their job. I'm not sure how many units of government are involved in this. I know the clerk's office is required to be, the fire department is required to be, the building department is required to be. There's multiple inspections. I know everyone's doing their job. It's just frustrating to live in a world where you can't sell a hat in a tent without 7 government departments and 55 inspections. I realize we live in that world.
Welcome to
and I'm not
government.
blaming anybody.
Welcome to government.
It's just frustrating that you can't just set up a tent and sell a flippin' thing. But I understand.
Well, if I may, I do think that this kind of can solve both problems if we suspend the license rather than revoke it and rather than say you can still operate, because then there's a safety issue. If we suspend it, they cannot operate. So it's either we revoke it and you're not going to operate, or we suspend it and say you're not going to operate, but you can open back up as soon as you're compliant. I think we solve the safety issue and we solve the issue of basically telling them they can't do business. So
What is the motion currently before us?
Currently, the motion is to revoke, so that would be up to the motion maker if he would like to amend his motion as described by trustee Lucido.
No, I don't want to amend it.
Who is the seconder as well? Just out of
Me.
curiosity?
Clerk Posey.
Okay. I'm not going to vote in favor of the motion. I believe we should do everything we can to allow people to be in business. And
Mr.
and
Chairman.
if we suspend them until they're in compliance, I don't see what the public safety risk is.
So let me ask this to both, because I don't know how the paperwork process works, the clerk or the attorney. Can they reapply if we revoke?
Yes.
There's nothing that prohibits them from doing so.
and how long does that process take?
I don't know that.
5 to 9 days.
Might as well suspend it rather than have the township have to go through more paperwork again
Well, and they would have to pay an additional $250.
Correct. And for me, I like to see people try and make a living, and I'd like to work with them any way we can. I know we've tried, and I understand that, and I don't want to put the township residents at risk, but I also feel that if we suspended the license, we're solving that problem as well, giving them an extra chance to do this. Now, if I get a call or somebody gets a call saying they're operating and we suspended the license, then that's it. I mean, that's your last chance. So, I mean, that's just where I'm at with it.
One last
Yep.
thing. So you've given your date of your canopy arrival with the time. How confident are you in that? Because you've given us that different date 3 times.
Well, I did have the tarps, but the tarps got blown off they got ripped off because they was just like grommet holes in the tarp. But this is a custom-made top.
Is this the same custom-made top that was supposed to arrive before?
That wasn't a custom, it was a tarp.
Okay.
It was a fire retardant tarp. This is a custom-made top.
Mr. Chairman. I
Yes,
ask
Trustee
that I be
Kuzma.
recognized.
We're quick enough.
One of the thoughts that's been crossing my mind, is there any provisions for civil penalties, fines, costs, or any other in the ordinance?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I'm sure there are. I just don't have them at my fingertips.
Civil penalties for violation of the ordinance?
I would assume
Well,
Is that what we're referring to?
It'd be a violation, it likely is a misdemeanor violation through the court system.
If they were issued a citation.
If they were issued a citation, we have not issued them a citation.
So I'll wrap it up, because I think everyone's had, did I interrupt you?
Trustee Papa would like to comment.
Just a quick question, as it relates to both the somewhat proposals, I guess, that Mr. Lucido and Mr. Drolet offered. If we go with the suspension, I think I lean towards this idea, only because if you let them and give it a future date, is there any liability to the township that you're letting, somebody do something that they shouldn't be, and we've outlined it already? Is there any, if anything goes wrong during that, now we're liable because we allowed for it? So.
I think you put the township at risk if you continue to allow it during the pendency of the matter without compliance.
Well, that's why if it's suspended, all operations have to cease.
Correct. If you just let it go, I think there is some exposure.
Correct.
You're still subject to governmental immunity, of course, but how that plays out, different story.
Certainly, we can't set a precedent of ignoring our own rules.
Can I make a
Yes.
comment? We got 2 professionals here, Vince and Jerry. They work extremely hard in protecting the residents. They have, because I listen to these people that sell stuff and deal with both of these gentlemen, and they always tell me they're professional, they're courteous, they're on time. And here, there's not a doubt in my mind they've given them every stretch they could. And we're still here today. So that tells me that we're putting our residents at a risk by just allowing them to throw these tents up. They said they plugged it in. Do we know if that's got a GFI? What if somehow the wire got cut and charged the whole power, that steel building? Somebody'd be electrocuted immediately. And I'm not an electrician. I just know that that's just common sense. So, and you applied for a generator, and you went against your own application. And you're asking for relief. I think you, in my personal, from what I've gotten here, I think you've got all the relief already. I think these 2 people have bent over backwards for you. So, and that's why I said I don't want to change my motion.
My question is that I feel like there's 2 different locations, there's 2 separate things going on, and it's all being put together as one thing. My location that I'm at has never had a generator running, and it's never had electricity going to anything. I put the lights up, the structure up, I did put the tarp up, and I did put the sidewalls up the day that it rained, which was against the requirements.
Is it
But
is
what
it a
we're
single,
saying
is it a single permit or two permits?
They're different permits.
They're different permits,
They are different
Same
permits.
company.
They're under the same company, but they're under
but they're two different permits.
two different permits. So he's not incorrect in stating that he may.
So each permit could be approved separately if he gets in compliance before the other gentleman.
Correct.
That permit then could get approved.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Because I've spoken with these gentlemen, they've come out, I've been very open. I worked in the oil field for 15-plus years. I'm pretty keen on safety and all the things that all the requirements that are being asked of me. So I fully understand all the concerns that could happen with it being out there.
So in summary, the reason it's on the agenda is because they file the application in the clerk's office. I've spent a lot of time talking with Vince, code enforcement, and Josh. The issues brought forward was that they've exhausted in frustration at continually going to the property because of complaints that are received. And then, as Mr. Tomlinson mentioned, it's been a bait and switch where they comply at the moment but then put it back up the next day. So it's at the board's discretion to decide, based on all of the exhausted attempts to keep it operational and due to our own ordinances, how we want to handle it. That's what's being presented before you today.
And if I may, I agree that everybody in this process that works for the township is doing their job. However, we're also human beings, and when it starts pouring rain and you throw a tarp up on the tent, I don't think it's a towering inferno. I think it's okay, to get out of the rain a little bit. I don't think plugging the electrical plug into an existing outlet requires a platoon of people and inspections when you want to plug in a fan or something. I realize that's what we have. That's the rules. Everyone's doing their job. Everyone's in compliance with it. But a little lenience in agreeing with Trustee Lucido's suspension of the license until they are deemed to be in compliance, I don't think is that much to ask for.
So the motion, so I'm going to ask one more time. Charlie, you're firm on your motion?
Yes, but
Okay.
I got a question. Is
Yes.
that both sales?
This is right now applying to both permits.
Okay.
Both locations.
Yep.
If you want to separate it out, then you need to separate out the motion.
The motion currently stands.
Currently stands. Clerk Posey has seconded it. I think we all understand each other's position, regardless of how this motion goes. There can be another motion after this.
Before we vote, though, I think so sometimes I play devil's advocate against my own point, but I have to raise this. If somehow this fails and we vote not to revoke it,
Then we can make another motion on the spot.
and if that fails, we're then allowing them
That's right.
to continue.
That is correct. That is correct.
That is a good.
A yes vote.
That's a very good.
Yes vote would be to revoke.
Okay.
So yes is to revoke.
So, motion by, I don't think there's any more comments. Motion by Trustee Oliver, and supported by Clerk Posey, to revoke the vendor permits for Showtime Novelties located at 15255 Hall Road and 46900 North Avenue. Motion fails 3-4 with Trustees Lucido, Papa, Treasurer Gillette, and Supervisor Viviano voting no. I would like to make a motion to suspend the vendor permits at 15255 Hall Road and 46900 North Avenue until such time as all department staff have signed off on the permits and they are in full compliance with our ordinances.
Support.
Any questions or discussion on that one? Assume we're going to do a voice vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. So, gentlemen, you are currently suspended. You cannot operate until such time as you are in full compliance. As long as you follow the rules, you'll be fine. If you don't follow the rules, there will be citations and visits from the sheriff's office. Understood?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Suspended till how, till when, till every?
Until you are fully compliant.
Fully
And if you want to
compliant.
come in the morning and see our staff, and if you have any further questions, I'm sure they'll be able to help you out.
Right.
Okay, we open at 8 o'clock.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to public comment. This is for non-agenda items. Anyone wish to make public comment may do so for 3 minutes at the microphone. I see no one. So we're going to move on to trustee comments. Trustee Lucido.
Okay, well, first of all, there's way too many of them to congratulate everyone individually, so to all the reappointees, new hires, appointees, congratulations and thank you for your time and efforts for the township. Congratulations to firefighter Weedbush on his retirement. We thank you for your service again. Thank you to Parks and Rec, not only for the phenomenal tree lighting, which we've done, every year, at least since I've been on the board and prior to that, but the Santa Cruz, the parade that I had the privilege of riding in the bus along with. I had no idea what to expect, but, my mind was blown, the amount of people that were lining the streets and waving and cheering and yelling. I mean, it was a great time, and I cannot wait. I better have a reserved spot next year on the bus. That was a great time. So thank you to everybody in Parks and Rec that put that on and anybody else that was part of that. Really appreciate it. It was a great time. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lucido. Trustee Papa.
Yeah, I'd like to also extend congratulations to everybody who was reappointed to their board positions. And also to Allison, welcome aboard, as well as Mr. Schroeder, our new utility worker. And also the retirement of Mr. Weedbush. Just a quick point to the board, as I've kind of let them know already. I've took the Michigan Township Association, an elected official session yesterday, so I'm dangerous enough that I can start asking even tougher questions to the board, hopefully.
Sorry, we'll turn your mic off.
And with that, again, just kind of reiterate with what Mr. Lucido said about the events with the Parks and Rec. Yeah, phenomenal stuff. And Clerk Posey for the great idea. Put it on record so that Leon doesn't try to take credit for that.
I knew that was a great idea, that parade.
Thank you, Trustee Papa. Trustee Oliver.
Ron, I can't top that. I just can't. I try all night. I couldn't top it. Again, Allison, congratulations and thanks for applying. And I know you were hard sought. All right, so thank you for applying. Thanks to William Schroeder for applying and getting the job. And I thank our firefighter for 26 years of service, Mr. Michael Weedbush. That's a lot. And I thank the board for my reappointment. And
don't screw it up.
Again, I'm not going to say whoever got the parade going. I think it was Christie, but pretty sure. It was great. That was something that it didn't take a lot of manpower, but it sure gave a lot of people a lot of joy. So I liked it. And other than that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you,
I
Trustee
think I have
Oliver.
to start planning parades for a living instead of elections.
Trustee Kuzmano.
Just a Merry Christmas to all the residents and all the employees of the township, and on to 2025. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Kuzmano. Treasurer Jolette.
I will defer my comments to the clerk.
Well, before you mind if I go a little bit out of order and just make a quick announcement. I want to remind everybody that the township offices will be closed beginning on December 4th on Christmas Eve, and will reopen on January 2nd. That would be the Thursday. However, for the one day and one day only, we will be open on Thursday, December 26th from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. for the purposes of collecting your taxes. Thank you, Grinch Trolette. So,
He's having a bad meeting.
She gets the parades. I get
so
the
Clerk
parades.
Posey, I believe you wanted to make.
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, I would like to take this moment to read something to everyone that's here this evening and to our audience and residents at home. 'Twas the meeting before Christmas at Macomb Township Hall, which had more holiday lights than Partridge Creek Mall. Board members were nestled all snug in their chairs to vote on the agenda of township affairs. When out in the lobby there arose such a clatter, the supervisor leaped from his seat to see what was the matter. But before he could cross the boardroom floor, Santa himself strode through the door. "Please don't be concerned," the jolly old elf implored. "I've come to announce who's been good on this board. First off is Charlie Oliver, a veteran trustee who donates truckloads of food to families in need. Because Charlie's been giving for so many years, I'm bringing Trustee Oliver 8 shiny John Deeres." Before Trustee Oliver could manage a reply, St. Nick turned to Trustee Lucido and looked him in the eye. "Peter Lucido, you contribute common sense and reason and advocate for sidewalks, parks, and for youth football season. For you, I offer insurance with no monthly premium that your colleagues will always value your insights without tedium."
Trustee Kuzmano, Santa said, turning to the U of M alumnus. "You help steer the board with your strong moral compass. My gift to you will be generous, please have no doubt, but is unfortunately delayed because I'm bidding it out." Santa then turned to the newly elected trustee. "Ron Papa," he said, "you have no need of me. Your hard work and perseverance got you elected indeed, proving you already have the gifts it takes to succeed. Now, Leon," Santa paused to choose his words carefully, "some think a treasurer must do his job without empathy. But your only talent is that you believe that a treasurer should fight not to take, but to leave. Leave as much to families of what they earn, and make taking for government a lesser concern. So after this meeting, when you get in your car, you'll find on your front seat a Cuban cigar." Christy Posey, Santa said as he turned to the clerk, "in 2024, you set a new record for hard work. Was it 4 elections this year? I've lost count. What you gave was the township, what you gave to the township was invaluable, no doubt. Because for the voters you put forth your best. In 2025, I promised you a well-deserved rest."
Then Santa slowly sat down in an audience chair, as if he were tired from the whole strange affair. But when Santa said, "Frank Viviano, I've saved you for last," he sounded cheerful and not the least bit gassed. "Not because you've been naughty," he went on. "That's not your fate, because I haven't come up with a gift that you'd find great." Seeing Santa's concerned, the supervisor responded, "There's no need for fear. There are plenty of gifts that are already here. Colleagues working together, putting residents first in line, and township staff who are far better than fine. The talent and teamwork of township employees makes success by our elected board a breeze." "But Santa," Frank continued, "if you have just a bit more you can give, help me learn to be kinder and humble and to listen and forgive. Those are gifts that can help me to better lead. Being the best person I can be is a gift I always need." "Well, Frank," Santa replied as he looked at the whole board, "those are gifts that come from the Lord. It might be easier to feel those things near Christmas Day, but you must remember to seek them out all year when you pray." Santa spoke not another word. He had completed his work. He rose from his chair, then turned with a jerk. He strode out of the meeting room with great flair and returned to his sleigh parked on town square. We all heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
Mr. Supervisor, at this time, I think all of the board would like to wish our residents a Merry Christmas and to enjoy a beautiful song sung by my daughter, Brooke Posey, and A Silent Night.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing Alleluia. Christ our Savior is born. Christ our Savior is born. Thank you.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd move that we adjourn the meeting and wish everyone all a Merry Christmas.
Support.
There's no discussion. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to adjourn the meeting and to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned.
Hey, boy, we're...
Thank you.